Kahani Bar brings you a cocktail of stories in English and in Hindustani. Welcome back. This is Payal. It's time to tune into the second part of our story, The Rose Villa, written by Neerja K. In case you missed the first part, you can always go back to Spotify or YouTube before you continue to listen to part 2. Mrs. Krishna Anand, hearing the news, was furious. I warned you that this young man would bring disaster into our daughter's life the day he stepped into this house. He's gone off, leaving our daughter in a lurch. Thank heavens they weren't married yet. God has given you another chance, she concluded, wagging a finger at her husband. Mr. Anand sighed. Krishna, think about Nidhi and Prashant. They love each other. You better mend your attitude now that the wedding is just a few months away. Wedding? Mrs. Anand interrupted sharply. What wedding? You need a groom for that. Where is the groom? He's at the border, waiting for an enemy bullet to take him. Nidhi is an immature fool. You are not, Krishna continued. She's closer to you and listens to you. You talk to her, reason it out with her, do whatever it takes. Let me make one thing clear. As long as I live, I will not allow this to happen. I cannot see our only child's life being knowingly ruined. A few days passed and Bridge tried to talk to Nidhi. Nidhi was shocked at what her father had to say. How could he even suggest what her mother was wanting? She was devastated. In response, Nidhi shut herself off from everyone. She took all her meals in her room and refused to join the family at the table. Deep down, she was certain that there would be no war, that Prashant would come back safe and sound, though she had not heard from him since he had left. Despite her hopes, no letter came from Prashant. Then, on the evening of 3rd December 1971, everything changed. Pakistan declared war with Operation Changez Khan, and fighter jets from Pakistan bombed several Indian air bases, including the Srinagar Air Base. Determined more than ever to ensure the safety of her daughter's future, Krishna Anand put her foot down firmly and shut down any argument. She was resolute, closing herself off to any further discussion. While the nation was at war, Nidhi was fighting her own battle. Nidhi was desperate. She tried to have a peaceful conversation with her mother, but Krishna was adamant. To add to her misery, Krishna had called her brother and his wife from Amritsar. The pressure from her mother, uncle and aunt was too much. Nidhi's entire world came crumbling down. The arguments between mother and daughter were fierce. But in her heart, Nidhi knew she was fighting a losing battle. She didn't care what happened to her life anymore. What terrified her most was the question, what about Prashant? What would happen to him? How would he endure this? The thought of him suffering in the midst of the war broke her heart. Madhu, her best friend, was furious with her, unable to understand why Nidhi wouldn't just reach out to Prashant and stand up to her mother. Her voice filled with pain, Nidhi explained, My life is not just mine. No one's is. Every life is a link in a chain, she said softly. I love my parents and I can't bear to see them hurt. I can't imagine a life without their blessings. And I can't imagine a life without Prashant. At the same time, I can't choose one over the other. I'm standing at a crossroad. And I don't know where to turn. You're lucky that your parents approved of you and Captain Prem. You will get married soon and leave me. Madhu gave her a big hug, and as she left her room, she said, Nidhi, think once again. It's your life, not your mother's. Krishna crafted a plan to send her away with her brother and his wife to Amritsar, just as the ceasefire was announced after the Pakistan Army's surrender in East Bengal, now Bangladesh. Her father, Bridge, watched helplessly as his daughter was taken away. Nidhi felt betrayed. When Prashant found out what had happened in his absence, he was devastated. He couldn't understand why Nidhi had abandoned him. His heart ached as he tried to reach out, hoping for some resolution, but it only led to more confusion and heartbreak. Bridge Anand could not meet Prashant's eyes. He mumbled his apologies and then quickly excused himself, retreating into the garden to escape the painful scene unfolding before him. When Prashant insisted on seeing Nidhi, Krishna coldly replied, "Nidhi has gone to her uncle's place and won't be back for several months. She's planning to pursue her post-graduation there. Besides, she has changed her mind and won't be seeing you again. Please leave now. You've created more problems in this family than I can handle. Do not return, or you will not be allowed in. You're not welcome here anymore. You will not see Nidhi as long as I live. Do you hear me? Leave now." Prashant stood there, humiliated, insulted, and above all, betrayed. How could Nidhi do this to him? He didn't believe a word of what Mrs. Anand had told him. Something didn't feel right. He decided to wait for Nidhi's return. He had to talk to her. This madness needed to end. As he walked away dejected, he saw Baba Gul at the gate waiting for him. The old man's eyes were sorrowful. As he bid Prashant a tearful farewell, he whispered, "Bade Saab ji is helpless and so is Nidhi baby. She's nursing a broken heart just like you. But she cannot go against her mother's wishes. No one in this house can. Look after yourself. I will look after your Nidhi. I promise." Prashant's posting orders arrived before Nidhi was back. He had to leave. He left the valley a heartbroken man and emotionally bankrupt. He never returned to the valley, not even on a posting. Nidhi's mother brought in many matches, but Nidhi refused all. "Ma, how many times have I told you that I'm not going to marry anyone? Don't waste your time. And I'm not meeting anyone you bring in." Krishna did not give up, but Nidhi was firm. Ultimately, Krishna gave up. Her father hardly spoke. He seemed to have drowned in a deep sense of guilt. He could not see his daughter withering away, melting and fading quietly like a burning candle, yet lighting up their lives. He loved her, but in his heart he knew he had betrayed her. Behind Nidhi's smiling face, he could see the shadow of accusation in her eyes. He could not bear that. One day, he succumbed to a massive heart attack. Baba Gul remained a witness to whatever happened thereafter. For Nidhi, life stood still. She could not deal with the loss of her father. She felt the pain her mother was going through for the loss of her dead husband. She became irritable, peevish, and there was no one else but Nidhi and Baba Gul to bear the brunt of her erratic temper, which was getting worse with each passing day. The entire responsibility fell on Nidhi's shoulders. It became her job to look after the affairs of her father's apple orchards and other related business matters. Nidhi drowned herself in work. Time went by. Days, weeks, months, years seemed to have flown by, leaving Nidhi all alone in this rose villa. Remembering all this, Baba Gul stooped a little more with grief and turned towards the kitchen. Nidhi had not felt so light in her body and soul for a long, long time. It was as if the old days had come back, as if she were the same young girl who would leave behind a tornado wherever she went. Her gaze was fixed again at the gate. She could almost see someone approaching the gate. The morning was a little misty, and the soft morning sun was shining silver on the dewdrops and flowers. Nidhi was soaking in every moment of this dreamy trance. She could now see someone open the gate. And Nidhi suddenly sat up. It was him again. It was Prashant in his uniform. Yes, she had willed this scene every morning, but today it seemed real. Oh yes, it was him. It was not her imagination. She adjusted her spectacles and then called out ever so softly, Baba, Baba Gul, see who's there? See, I told you my dream would come true. See, he is here. Nidhi got up from her chair. Her knotted silver-streaked hair came loose and fell down to her waist as she ran out with the agility of a young girl. She was out of the house and running towards the gate where a young army officer met her halfway. She ran into his arms. Prashant, I knew you would come for me one day. The young officer was not surprised. He understood the confusion. His resemblance to his father had created this situation. To his relief, he saw Baba Gul coming towards them hurriedly. Nidhi, this is not Prashant Babu. You have really grown old. How can Prashant Babu be so young when your own hair has gone all white? Step back. This is someone else. Nidhi suddenly realized her mistake. She touched her own white hair and then looked up at the young officer. Was she going crazy? She wondered. Baba Gul was right. How could he be so young after all these years? But then, this is Prashant. She looked at him confused, adjusting her glasses feverishly. The officer picked up her shawl, which had slipped off her shoulders and was bunched up on the pathway. He wrapped it around her and put his arm lovingly over her shoulder, escorting her back to the house. Baba Gul, also a little confused, followed them. The stranger helped Nidhi settle down in her chair and then sat next to her on the poof. He held her hand between his palms and said, I am Arvind. Prashant was my father. Nidhi felt embarrassed. I am so sorry, beta, but you look so much like him. You must pardon me. You see, time spares no one. It is my failing sight, I suppose, and my foggy mind that I got fooled. Arvind smiled and said, You are not the only one to mistake me for him. I do look like his double. Suddenly, she looked up at him. Why did you use the past tense for him? And why have you come here? How do you know me and Baba Gul? Arvind tried to break the news very softly. He said, after he left Valley, he remained a bachelor for a long time. He married only because he had promised his dying mother that he would. I was born, but my mother died due to postnatal complications. A few days back, my father suddenly wanted to come to the Valley. On his way to the airport in Delhi, unfortunately, he met with an accident. He was in the hospital for a day, but the doctors could not save him. Arvind stopped and held Nidhi's hand to help her to absorb the shock. And then he continued. He was breathing his last when he asked the doctors to leave us alone. He said to me, Arvind, my son, I have borrowed a few minutes from death. Listen to me carefully. I have a past very sacred and close to my heart. There is a diary in my study. It is in my drawer with a double lock. Read that diary. I have always tried to be your best friend, my son. Now I want you to be my best friend. And I know you will not fail me. Those were his last words. I read his diary a few days back, and here I am to do what my father would have wanted me to do. I've come to take you with me. I will take care of you, and you can be my mother that I never met. Baba Gul was stunned. He knew Prashant must have found out that Krishna, Nidhi's mother, had passed away just a few days back and must have decided to come back for Nidhi, but fate had planned differently. All the while, Nidhi remained silent. She kept rocking her chair slightly and fiddling with her engagement ring that was kind of loose in her frail finger, and Baba Gul stood by her side. The days of hope had long faded, and now it was a reminder of what had been lost. As Arvind sat before Nidhi, his resemblance to Prashant stirred memories in her that she had long buried deep in her heart. The quiet house was filled with an eerie silence, broken only by Nidhi's soft, labored breaths as she looked up at the young man sitting in front of her. Her mind raced as she tried to reconcile the image of the young officer with the man she had once loved so deeply. How could this be? How could Prashant be gone? And why had time moved on without him? Why was she still alive? The old garden, the familiar pathway, and the soft morning mist that clung to the flowers all seemed so familiar. Yet, they now seemed like relics of another life, one that had died with Prashant. Nidhi's body felt light, but her heart was very heavy, burdened by years of waiting, hoping, and dreaming. As Arvind spoke softly of his father's last wishes, Nidhi listened in silence, each word sinking deeper into her soul, sealing her grief in a way that words could not express. She could not answer him, not with words, not with any gesture. The weight of Prashant's absence had grown too great to bear, and all that was left was an empty space where her heart once beat with purpose and love. Baba Gul, who had witnessed everything from the shadows, understood Nidhi in a way that no one else could. As Arvind spoke of his father's last moments, Baba Gul knew that the bond between Nidhi and Prashant was beyond physical. It was spiritual, eternal, and deep. His voice, though gentle, held the sadness of 1,000 untold stories. Nidhi, baby, it is over now, Baba Gul murmured softly, his voice a lullaby of sorrow. Your Prashant, he's gone. He was always a part of you. And now, he will live in your heart forever. But it is time for you to rest, my child. You have waited long enough. Nidhi's gaze softened, her hands resting on her lap. She could no longer hear the voices around her. All she could feel was the absence of the man who had once filled her world with light. In her heart, she had always known this day would come. The day when Prashant would no longer be waiting for her. But she had held on to the dream, the hope that he would return. And now, even that hope was gone. Arvind sat still, expecting some kind of a reaction from Nidhi. He touched her arm ever so tenderly. Say something. Say that you'll come with me. You'll help me to fulfill my father's last wish. Arvind, feeling the weight of the silence, looked to Baba Gul for guidance. Baba, what should I do? Turning to Nidhi, he said, Please say something. Baba Gul's face softened as he placed a hand on Arvind's shoulder. You cannot force her to go with you, Arvind. You must understand. Nidhi lived for so long because she believed Prashant was alive in some way. Alive in her heart, in her dreams. But now she has nothing to look forward to. Nidhi was still and quiet. The chair had stopped rocking. Arvind looked at Baba Gul. Baba, why don't you ask her to talk? Ask her to come with me. Baba looked at Nidhi's face and her glazed eyes. Beta, whom are you talking to? She has already gone. She has gone to her Prashant, to her love. Nidhi, baby, your dream has really come true. Baba Gul went on as if to himself. She lived all these years because she knew that Prashant was somewhere alive and living. This feeling was enough for her to go on living. It was the bond of the souls, his existence and the moments they had spent together that kept her going. Now, if he's not, how could she be? Tears welled up in Arvind's eyes as he understood the true depth of the bond that had existed between Nidhi and Prashant. A bond that transcended even death. The young officer's face mirrored the grief of a son who had never truly known his father, but was now left to carry the legacy of a love story that had never seen its conclusion. As Nidhi's body remained still in the chair, the room seemed to hold its breath. Baba Gul took one last look at Nidhi, his eyes filled with both sorrow and understanding. He had known, perhaps better than anyone else, that this moment would come. That Nidhi's soul, like Prashant's, would be carried away by the same invisible thread that had connected them in life. Arvind stood up, wiping away a tear that had silently escaped down his cheek. And so, as the mist settled around the old garden, Baba Gul whispered a prayer for Nidhi's soul. And Rose Villa breathed its last. On that note, true love transcends boundaries. So here's to love, hope, and life. This is Payal signing off. Take care of yourselves until we meet again with yet another story.